and Andrew Cooper.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Quick Out Fantasy Football Show. John Impemba here with Andrew Cooper, breaking down Week 5 of the NFL season. Coop, we have hit the bye week portion of the NFL season. The Cleveland Browns, Los Angeles Chargers, Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are off this week, which means those of you who have drafted those players, hopefully you prepared in your draft for those bye weeks. You have some replacements on your rosters for the Justin Herberts, Keenan Allens of the world here, or you've at least prepared on the waiver wire to pick up some guys here to get yourself ready to set your lineups for NFL Week 5. Coop and I are going to go down and break down each and every game on this slate of games for NFL Week 5. We'll also be answering your questions here throughout the show as well, so feel free to pop them in chat if you got any questions for Coop and I. Happy to help you out this week. Coop, my man, how we doing?
Doing good, brother. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy how all offseason we've got all these like things in our mind where, okay, I'm going to go 0 RB and I can never have two quarterbacks and I can never have two tight ends. And then it turns out that, even guys you thought where if you were just going to take a Dallas Goedert or George Kittle and never think about it, or take a Joe Burrow or even a Trevor Lawrence and say, okay, now I don't never need to have two guys at this position. Not only the bye weeks come around, and it turns out you're going to need somebody at some point, but all along, the people that maybe did go out and take two tight ends, maybe got a Sam Laporta or took two quarterbacks and got an Anthony Richardson. Those guys are eating right now. They're killing.
Mhm.
So maybe we got to change the way we think about this sometimes, especially if your guy has an early bye week, especially if he has bye week 5 or 6. You can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to need this guy anyway. I might as well take a stab right at this position. And even if the one hang up, John, is that people think if you draft two tight ends, you have to just have them forever. Right. Like as if you, because I mean, the first week of waivers, you're going to drop your worst player anyway. So why not get a look? Why not get a look at some of these guys? So I don't know. I want to change the way that people think about that. And hopefully now that bye weeks are here with all these injuries, they start thinking that way.
Well, we always talk about draft strategies as well. And you do the yin yang tight end article series here. I do the identifying breakout quarterbacks article for the draft guide. You talk a lot about also the lottery tickets versus scratch tickets type of players that you're looking to draft, and you get that sort of, either instant answer on certain players or you're willing to wait and see. There are certain players that fall into that category where it's like, okay, if you're in a seasonal redraft league, it doesn't make sense to draft a backup quarterback because, you can always just pick one up on the waiver wire when your QB has a bye. But there are players like an Anthony Richardson that you want to take that stab on, even if you do draft a quarterback, because he has that upside to potentially be a top 5 overall fantasy quarterback. Now, he doesn't have to be a good real-life quarterback. We've talked a lot about that as well. The man completed 44% of his passes last week and had 30 fantasy points. He has that elite rushing upside. That's what you're looking for when it comes to certain players where you're going to take that stab. You talk about two tight ends. You take Sam Laporta late in the draft, but maybe you took Dallas Goedert. Well, now you got yourself in a situation where Dallas Goedert's basically unstartable, but Sam Laporta is a top 5 tight end. So, while it may have seemed like a waste to draft a second tight end, you're drafting a second tight end, you're drafting a second quarterback only on the idea that they might have the upside. You're not drafting two Dallas Goederts or two Tyler Higbees. You're not drafting two Matthew Staffords. You're drafting one guy that has the potential to be a top 5 player at their position.
That's exactly how you do it, man. And that's why we do our yin and yang. I do my yin and yang rankings all year long because for tight end, because with wide receiver and running back, you're just going to roster a bunch of them. With tight end, I like to let people know that we've separated all year, standalone. If you have this guy, you don't need another, right? And now Dallas Goedert and George Kittle are guys where if I have those guys, I'm rostering too. I just want to say shout out to the chat, Chris, Rod, Chaka, Hal, and we see you guys. We're going to get to questions today. Luckily, we got a few bye weeks, so not as big of a slate. So we definitely have time to get some questions in. John, do you want to start with some games or clear the slate on some questions?
Yeah, let's clear the slate on some questions here. I'll pop them up, and as new ones come in, they'll also display here on the screen as well. Jake saying a typo, Jake Elliott, or Chris saying a typo. Someone landed Jake Elliott for $27. That's definitely unfortunate. That's why I always say double check your fab bids before you go to sleep at night. Don't want that to happen here. Our guy Rod wants to know, would you stream Howell or Stafford this week? He's got Herbert on the bye. Howell with the Thursday night football matchup against the Chicago Bears. Stafford here. The Rams are facing, is it Philly this week?
Yeah.
I want to say.
No, it's not.
No.
It's
Who are the Rams playing this week?
the Rams are playing. Oh, you know, it's Philly.
Philly. Yeah, playing Philly this week. I'm going Howell against Chicago this week.
I still have Stafford ranked ahead. I mean, dude, Stafford's been making some crazy throws, but I could see going.
The turnovers on my worry with Stafford.
The thing with the Rams is they've been playing so well that they're not even big dogs in this game. It's 50-point over under, and they're only 4-point dogs. I think I still kind of like Stafford there.
Yeah, for me, it's the defensive matchups here. You can certainly attack. I like Higbee this week. I know you hate Higbee most weeks, but tight ends continually find success against the Eagles secondary here. I mean, is Puka Nacua going to go on Bradbury or Slay this week and have the same success he's had? Tutu Atwell going to find the same? I worry a little bit about that. Plus, I mean, we saw Matt Stafford get absolutely beat up against the Bengals pass rush. What's he going to do against the Eagles pass rush with their offensive line trouble? So I worry about Stafford this week in that matchup. I like Higbee for DFS. I would go Howell this week personally.
Yeah, I think, and especially since you have Herbert, it's only it doesn't even matter the rest of the season. It's just a 1 week matchup. Go Howell. Just get it in because you're going to probably drop him anyway.
The Bears are so bad defensively. I can't imagine this being a week where Sam Howell doesn't find success either with his own legs, running in a touchdown, or throwing a couple. So I'm in on Howell this week. Won't hear me say that many times this season. Chalky here. What's our equal value to Kyren Williams? I mean, these are such tough questions because the equal to value to Kyren Williams depends on the team that you're trying to trade with. What is the team you're trying to trade with value Kyren Williams at, and what kind of wide receiver are you trying to get to? So, Kyren Williams right now is a top 10 fantasy running back, but he's not going to likely.
He's top 5. Right
top
now.
5, yeah.
Depending on the format, I think he's top 5 in every format. Actually,
yeah.
He's like RB3 in PPR. It's almost like to find an equivalent value, you need to go and look for like a guy that is kind of feels like a fraud to a certain degree, or doesn't have name value. Like honestly, if Kyren Williams is RB3, I mean Puka Nacua is wide receiver 4, and we sit here with both of them and say, is this real? Is this not real?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like Nico Collins would be a good example of somebody.
Would you trade Kyren Williams and hope that like maybe a Chris Olave manager is tired of like a slow start, maybe they take the running back. I mean, I don't know.
Well, those are your two options. Your two options are go for a name brand player you believe is underperforming, or go for a guy that is not a name brand and is overperforming, which Kyren Williams fits that. So if you want a 1-for-1, I think like a Nico Collins would be. Nico Collins is a perfect example. But yeah, you're right. A guy like Chris Olave is a bounce back candidate where he's right now he's like wide receiver 28. But with those, you almost have to, you have to understand that there's a chance that this guy just keeps performing at the level he's at because Michael Thomas looks good. Rashid Shaheed looks good.
Alvin Kamara came back and got 13 catches.
13, dude. Yeah.
You got to listen. On the Sunday show, Coop, I told you over 2.5 catches on Alvin Kamara was like one of my favorite props of the day. He had 5 on the first drive, so pretty insane. So listen, again, tough question, Chaka, to ask because it really depends on the eye of the beholder here to Kyren Williams, but those are definitely some strategies. Send a few feelers out there. Let your league know that he's on the block and see what gets sent to you. That's also a good way to handle that there as well. George wants to know Kenneth Walker or JT for a trade. I don't know how you trade Kenneth Walker right now.
Touchdown factory.
Yeah, dude. Keep Kenneth Walker. What's your expectation for Jonathan Taylor coming back here? I mean, I'd rather Kenneth Walker over JT right now. Again, without turning into a full Q&A here, Rod wants to know PPR, Brown, Waddle, Dubs, Palmer, RBs, or would you trade Monty for Ayuk? No, I would not trade. Why would you trade the guy that might lead the league in rushing touchdowns?
Javante's also banged up, man.
Saquon's banged up. Javante's banged up. Bijan's a boss. But Monty is on, again, 5 touchdowns in 3 weeks. The Lions may very well have the NFL touchdown leader at running back once again. So.
And yeah, good news for Romeo Doubs this week. Christian Watson came back. He took most of his snaps away from Dontavian Wicks as we expected. He didn't play a full snap share, but the guy that did maintain a full snap share is Romeo Doubs. Like he stayed on the outside, played his full snap share. Reed, Christian Watson, and Dontavian Wicks all kind of mixed and matched. And I think at the end of the day, what you can have is Doubs on the outside, Watson on the outside, and Jade and Reed kind of playing that partial snap share. So you got good news for Doubs this week. You got good news for Palmer this week. I don't think you need to go crazy trading for a wide receiver.
I agree. Hal wants to know, is it crazy to start a positional guy over Danny Dimes this week? 12 teams Superflex. The Giants are in Miami this weekend here.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they're going to be as bad as they were last week, but they also just haven't looked all that great.
Always depends on who the player is. Hal, let us know who the player is, but I think it's still Dimes, man.
I agree.
The rushing guy,
he still ran for like 60 yards last week.
Right.
Fields or Stroud this week. Stroud's home against who the Texans got home against on the road against Atlanta. Fields on the road against Washington. What are you thinking here?
I'm still starting Fields. Stroud has been good, but there's a couple things for Stroud. One, the narrative has worked heavily in their favor. They're attempting more passes than any other team. There will be a lot of those games, but this game isn't really – the Falcons really know how to slow it down. And the Falcons' defense is actually pretty good. I think Nico Collins is going to have a little trouble with A.J. Terrell. Jesse Bates, John. Best defensive acquisition this offseason, maybe?
So far. I mean,
besides the draft picks? I mean, best free agent, I think, for sure.
Yeah, what did we talk about with Atlanta? They went all-in defensive during free agency because they knew They knew what they were doing with their first-round pick. They took Bijan Robinson, so they were ready to go. Yeah, listen, I think Fields showed some good stuff last week. I would run that out there for sure. And then we got a trade offer: Connor, Amari, Terry for Barkley. No, I'd rather keep Connor, Amari.
Yeah. Keep what you have.
Yeah, I don't need to do that.
Amari has been when healthy. Amari has used his utilization in terms of average depth of target, first read looks, it on the scatter plot of all the first reads and the air yards and everything. He's like right there with like Devontae Adams and all the elite guys. He's being used like a high end elite wide receiver. It's gonna connect more often.
Yep. Downs, Rice, Mims are Hyatt this week. I actually think Rice against Minnesota is in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah, everything coming out of that team is positive on Rice.
Yep, I'm going to agree with you here. We'll get a couple more questions. We'll break into our game breakdowns here. Another trade question: would you trade Adams and Hall for Devonta and Pollard? No, I would keep Adams and Hall. They just said Breece Hall no longer has a snap count.
Right.
And Devontae Adams has still been really good.
Excellent.
So I don't think I'm going to do that deal.
Yeah.
Najee or Dimes was his super flex question. Najee Harris looked good last week, but maybe Trubisky helps that offense a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm starting Danny Dimes.
Yeah. People grab Denzel Mims over Marvin Mims. Yeah, maybe a couple. And then trade Q.
Why are so many people grabbing Marvin Mims? He still played 17 snaps. I mean, did somebody come out and say
they like the upside?
Sickos.
He's a stash guy though. He
is a stash. He is a stash guy, but it's like, why go crazy to grab him? I mean, there's so many options this week. There's Jameson Williams out there as a stash guy. Yep. I like Michael Wilson as a guy you can start right now. I mean, there's just so many
great
options.
weeks for Michael Wilson DFS price wise. Gonna be super chalk. Last question here before we dump into some breakdowns. Got offered Cup for Henry. Again, I don't trade for injured players, so I'm not going to trade for Cup. I don't know. What do you think here?
In redraft, I mean, I don't know. Are you 4-0? Because if you have any losses at all, it's hard to trade for injured players.
You also have good wide receivers: Olave, Cooper, Nico, and Pittman. Like
in one dynasty league where I'm 4-0, I traded for Cooper Kupp. I traded my first round pick for him, just basically saying, hey, you know what? That first round pick's not going to help you win this year, and I want to win.
If you start two running backs in a flex, I'd rather start all three of those running backs each week. So
yeah, who are you going to put on the bench? Michael Pittman, Nico Collins. I mean, like those. Your team's. I think your team is actually perfectly balanced right now.
Yeah. Last question here: do I trade Amari Cooper for Breece Hall in a full PPR? Tell us who your wide receivers are. Tell us who your running backs are. Tell us what
you got. Yeah, I'm going to keep Amari Cooper probably though.
Yeah, Breece looked good. If they're not going to look good, we could have things. All right, first game breakdown here, guys. We see your questions. Promise you, we will answer them as we move our way through, but we got to get through these game breakdowns.
If you want a question answered right away, then ask it while we're talking about that game. Like if we could say, hey, we're going to talk about Bears and Commanders right now, and you throw a Bears Commanders question in the chat.
Hey, Ethan Baderman right here. Jets, Commanders, Raiders, Packers defense this week. We're talking Chicago, Washington. Would you play the Commanders defense against the Bears this week, Coop?
I literally just did I did so many rankings yesterday. I ranked every position. I just ranked the defenses yesterday, and I forgot what order.
You have Jets versus Denver. You have the Commanders versus the Bears. You have the Raiders this week against Green Bay, and then the Packers against the Raiders.
I'm just gonna pull it up because I sat down and thought about it for like an hour and a half yesterday, and it's just I don't remember what I came to. I have Commanders as my number 2 defense this week against the Bears. So that's a pretty easy answer right there.
So then does that answer Fernando's question here of playing Howell or Fields?
I'm still playing Fields. I just like Justin Fields. The thing about predicting defenses that I look at it and say, what generates points for defenses? It's I say
sacks, turnovers, and
So it's like I factor in the over under, obviously, that, but like sacks and turnovers, right? It's like Justin Fields is looking for sacks, and so is Chase Young. So that's why I got him so high there. I think it's a very high ceiling, it's a very high ceiling play, and it's got a pretty good floor. Like Justin Fields will take a sack at some point.
He will, and he's definitely turnover prone, so that's fine.
Right.
So we'll go Fields there, Fernando, and Ethan will playing the Commanders defense. I know it's a little opposite of the advice there, but upside play, I think for sure here. In DFS, I still like Howell a little bit. Jacksonville Buffalo play the game this week in London. Buffalo is a 5.5 point favorite here. It's a 48.5 game total. We saw Buffalo just annihilate the Miami Dolphins last week. Jacksonville still doesn't look great. They beat Atlanta, but Desmond Ridder really beat Atlanta. I don't think Jacksonville did a ton to help themselves here. This feels like Buffalo could win in a rout.
Right. Well, the thing is, I gotta give at least a little something. I know these are professionals; they know how to travel, but Jacksonville's been out there getting acclimated for a full week now, so at least they got that on their side. There is, no matter what anyone says, there is a home field advantage to a certain degree for the Jaguars playing in London, right?
Even though they're classified as the road team this week,
they are classified as a road team, but this is a bit of a home game.
Yeah.
It's like so. I wouldn't bet the Bills to cover the spread. I think the Bills do win, but that's not where I'm going. As far as fantasy goes, for the first time, it's like you're starting. You're starting Diggs. You're starting Josh Allen. You're starting Ridley. Your Travis Etienne's been awesome. Travis Etienne's like top 5 back rest of the season, John. Ranking wise, kind of hard to argue against it.
Top 5 back rest of season.
Top 10 for sure, possibly top 5.
Yeah, maybe he needs to start showing more touchdowns.
Usage is that's true, but like he's getting like every snap, dude. Very
I mean he can play. I mean, so does Najee. No, Najee Harris doesn't, but it's a bad example. But like, he needs to score. If he's not going to score touchdowns, then he's not going to be a top 10 back. That's just not going to wait. He can be there in snap counts and volume, but touchdowns matter here. He's just not scoring enough for me.
We got Schwartz in chat. I'm playing him this week in our league. We're both 3-1, so this is a big.
Who gave you that loss last week, Coop?
What are you saying?
Who gave you that loss last week?
You did, John.
Yep,
you did.
thank you.
Actually moved me down to 5th. This league is like ruthless, dude.
It is ruthless. I agree with you there. Maybe again. I need more touchdowns out of ATN.
Yeah.
I just like that offense to flow better. Christian Kirk's been amazing, but are we going to eventually see Zay Jones come back and then that mess with the Kirk value here?
I think we will. I mean, it's like all these guys have a good floor, but the ceiling, it's kind of tough for anyone to really go out and get like a 12 target game when they just have enough weapons. It's like Evan Engram, very safe, but what would it take for them to just throw Engram, just have him, like, he's not going to have like a Darren Waller 18 target game or anything like that, so he's just a very safe, very solid player, and you start him every week. That's what a lot of those guys are.
Seen a lot of Kincaid questions pop in chat here. Could you want to address?
So Kincaid, so the thing is, Kincaid's still tough to start. I'm holding on to Kincaid everywhere, especially because this week quietly was a good week for him. First time this year he played more snaps than Dawson Knox. He ran 23 routes to 15 for Knox, and the 23 routes for Kincaid actually tied Gabe Davis for second behind only Stephon Diggs. So I know it was kind of a weird game, but Dawson Knox just straight up had the best usage he's had so far. So I'm holding on to him, just hoping that they let him loose at some point. And you got to remember that I think Sam Laporta kind of heard expectations here with a lot of these rookies. Like, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. His rookie year, he didn't do a damn thing until his usage changed and the trust changed week 11. And that's when it changed week 11. And then he really didn't pop until week 13. And then week 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, he went crazy. But everyone likes to think like, oh, yeah, he was just some crazy breakout rookie. He didn't break out for a long time. Odell Beckham Jr. was hurt. He came back, didn't really do much for a little bit. Mike Evans didn't. It's like sometimes these guys don't break out right away. So I have not dropped Kincaid in a single spot where I have him.
All right. Next game here, we have a Kamara for ETN trade. I would take Kamara.
Yes, for sure.
He
just got 14 targets his first game.
Yeah. Houston versus Atlanta here. Listen, you talk about lag. In the past, teams that have played in London had a bye week. Now Atlanta's playing the very next week.
Now it's just part of the schedule, man.
This is kind of why I like Houston this week here as a potential upset, because could see some of that lag from these guys coming back from London here. I do like Stroud. I wish their running game would get a little bit more going. They're still really struggling on the offensive line there, but I kind of like Houston here with the +2 if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Falcons' defense is so good. I think Houston could easily pull this one out. I like the under on this game. I think the hype has gotten a little crazy on.
I'll say this: Ritter's troubles throwing the football and Houston's pass defense, which seems, I guess, legitimate.
Pretty good, yeah.
But Houston cannot stop the run for the life of them, and Bijan Robinson's got over 100 yards rushing in 2 of the last 3 weeks. So Bijan is a core DFS play for me this week. I'm betting. I've already bet the over on his rushing props, which have been out there on the books. I've seen it at 72.5. I've seen it at 75.5. I think we're getting a 100-yard game out of Bijan Robinson this week against Houston.
Yeah, that's why I like the under, man. I think it's why I like the under. It's like good pass defenses for both teams. Stroud has looked good. Ritter's looked terrible. So yeah, I could see the Texans pulling this one out in the tough one. But yeah, the under is where I'm going on this. And it's like, you're can't go away from Nico Collins, but I don't expect him to have a monster week just because he's gonna be a key of AJ Terrell. And AJ Terrell is pretty much taken away. Like he held Josh Reynolds to 0. He focuses on the outside guy, which is Nico. So Josh Reynolds held to a 0. Calvin Ridley was able to score, but he only let up 40 yards in that game, AJ Terrell, and that's the most he's let up all year. Most of these other games he's letting up like 19 yards. So just be careful with Nico Collins. But at this point, you almost can't go away from the way he's playing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. On the other side, it's like, Pitts, everyone always says it, but it's true. I look at my spreadsheet where I have all the metrics for all these players for the tight ends, and it is just green across the board for Kyle Pitts when you look at the behind the scenes metrics.
If they change the quarterback, Hal says it right here. I've tweeted it like a half a dozen times now, Coop.
Right.
If they ever put Tyler Heinicke in as the quarterback here, that offense is going to change. Heinicke can throw the ball for sure better than Ritter can. The other issue is that the offense, Arthur Smith just doesn't want to run that kind of offense. If they wanted them to throw the football more, they could have Ritter throw the football more. They want to run. They just want to run the ball. But I think Heinicke being in would take away a little bit of what maybe their current offensive sets were, and they might find themselves spreading it a little bit more. If they have another week like they have last week, they can't continue to play Ritter here.
Exactly. And it's like, and the other thing is that Arthur Smith came out and said that, Kyle Pitts had the knee injury last year. He had surgery on the MCL. He says he's not 100% yet. So the combination of those, it makes it tough to start Pitts whenever Ritter's a quarterback, but he's a guy I'm not dropping because what happens when the knee gets right and they have a new quarterback? I mean, could be a totally different player with upside that just goes well beyond so many other guys. Like Tyler Higbee is always going to be Tyler Higbee. We've seen Tyler Higbee with no Cooper Kupp. We've seen Tyler Higbee with nobody else, and he's just okay. Like Tyler Higbee's
been pretty good with a guy that is breaking records right now, though. So
he's been fine. He's been fine.
Fine for tight ends though is also a very wide range. So there's only some good things here. Jack wants to know Laporta over Kittle. Yes, we're doing Laporta over Kittle. After Firefighter has a trade because Nico Collins and Dallas defense is what he gives up. He's getting back Joe Burrow and Jerry Jeudy. I mean, I don't know what your quarterback situation and wide receiver situation look like. Right now, Nico is better than Jeudy. So I don't know if that's a long-term play there, Coop. What do you think?
I don't know. Anytime I can trade a defense, I do it. Who the hell's trading for a defense?
Dallas's defense, though? I mean, Dallas's defense has put up some big numbers.
Yeah, they're good. But, I mean, like, this week they get the 49ers. Let's see how good they are.
A couple of years ago, I won a league because I had the Patriots defense, and they had, 8 touchdowns that year?
Yeah. I did that once with the Bears defense.
Yeah, so those things are legit. They can certainly be a difference maker. Firefighter 1, thanks for being in from Twitch. We love the
Twitch gang. Oh, yeah, Twitch gang glasses.
Being in here.
Yeah. One year I won with the Bears because their defense was incredible, and they also they had
Devin Hester.
Devin Hester running back kicks, too. So they actually scored an insane number of fantasy points.
Yeah. I agree with you there as well. All right, next game here, Carolina, Detroit. Detroit giving 9.5 points to the Carolina Panthers, which feels like a lot of points here to give up to the Carolina Panthers. This feels like a green light game for David Montgomery, though. Kudos Howard Bender. He said Minnesota passing offense was going to have some struggles against Carolina. Justin Jefferson still got his, but on a whole, that passing offense did nothing. Alexander Madison ran for 90 yards on the ground. Even Cam Akers averaged like 5.5 yards per carry. If you're going to tell me that David Montgomery, off of a 35 carry, 120 yard game against Green Bay, isn't going to just run all over Carolina this week, then I don't know. To me, that's the easy play of the week for me.
Yeah, and I saw an interesting video before this. It was Austin Eckler. He does the rounds with the fantasy football stuff, and he was talking to Matt Harmon, and Matt Harmon asked him, he was like, "Why is Jahmyr Gibbs not playing more?" And Austin Eckler said that he watches the tape. He's seen everything that they're doing there. And his explanation was that he's still not – he looks explosive. He's clearly physically talented. But basically the short and sweet was that they run so many counters and zone reads that David Montgomery actually like squares his shoulders. He sets it up. Like he brings the defense one way and sets up the cutback. And he said that Jahmyr Gibbs – that's part of his game he needs to learn right now, and that he's not – like so when they're calling – they want to run a counter or they want to run a zone read – they're going to use the guy that can set it up. And the equivalent to that is for people that are not really understanding the what that might look like. Just imagine if you had two quarterbacks and you call play action and one of them doesn't even fake the handoff. He just kind of runs and goes right to the play. And when the other guy takes his time, really sells the fake and sets up the play. That's what they're talking about, is that some guys just run right to the hole and other guys recognize and kind of set up the defense and then cut back to the hole. And he basically said that David Montgomery right now is one of the best in the league at doing it. And he looks amazing doing it. So that's why Monty's getting more work.
Chris UFC here, Thielen over Flowers and McLaurin this week. Listen, a ton of targets again for Adam Thielen last week. Tore up his former team. Detroit secondary is okay. I mean, their defense has been pretty good over the course of this season, but more so, you can't really run on Detroit. You can throw a little bit against them, but McLaurin gets Chicago, which I love that matchup for him this week. Flowers is drawing Pittsburgh. Where do you have them ranked here, Coop?
Yeah, so is this full PPR, Chris? Because Flowers is – I have him ranked – some players, like obviously like Devontae Adams is ranked the same in all my formats because he's good in every format, but Flowers is like a 5-yard A-dot guy. So he's ranked higher for me in full PPR than he is in other formats. So I got to actually – with that one, I got to know what the format is.
Do you have McLaurin ahead of those guys at all or below?
I think I have McLaurin ahead of – I think I have McLaurin ahead of Thielen regardless. So it might just be Flowers and it's full PPR. I think I would probably just go Flowers and McLaurin. What do you think, John? Do you think Thielen and Flowers?
I might lean Thielen over Flowers here. You can't argue with that target volume for him right now. Yeah. And you definitely have to play McLaurin versus Chicago, in my opinion. I think this is a home run matchup for McLaurin this week for me. And then it's your preference of Thielen or Flowers. I lean Thielen. It's just getting too many targets in that offense.
I do have McLaurin ranked ahead of Thielen, but just by like a couple spots.
Yeah, for me, it's Thielen and McLaurin for me here, Chris. Again, I like Flowers the long term. I don't know if this is the spot I want to go, given the matchups the other two have this week for me personally.
Cool. There it is.
Terrace Marshall got a lot of targets last week. I'm not doing anything with Terrace Marshall.
Yeah. We've yet to see one game with all four of the wide receivers in there. That's what I want to see.
Mingo hurt again last week, right?
Mingo hurt again. Thielen is the one that's consistently played every snap in every game, so we know he's locked in there. The question is, and Terrace Marshall is the one we've seen take a partial snap share at times, so I think he's a partial guy. The question is, are DJ Chark and Mingo going to play full snap shares, or is only one of them going to play and the other one's going to split with Marshall? Hopefully we get an answer on that soon, because down the stretch, you don't want to be banking on a guy and then all of a sudden it turns out that when everyone's healthy, he's not the guy you thought it was.
Right, here's an interesting trade here, Coop. Would you trade Thielen for Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, I would take Deebo.
You take Deebo for sure here, but obviously nobody, I don't think, or maybe Coop did. You were high on Thielen coming into the year, but the target share that he is.
I was high on Thielen and Michael Thomas because we knew that they were capable of big targets, but both guys, they're clearly not the guys they once were. They're not going to break off like massive touchdowns. Right. The ceiling is a little capped for both players compared to like a Deebo. I think I still take
100%. I like Deebo. I'd do that deal. Tennessee, Indy here. Colts +1, 42.5 total. Tennessee again gave up 300 yards passing. Joe Burrow just wasn't able to do anything with it. But that pass defense continues to be abysmal. On the other hand, you have Anthony Richardson, who completed just 44% of his passes last week, but still managed 30 fantasy points. So, Coop, talk to me about this Colts-Titans matchup.
This is John. This is the floor that you always talk about with the Russian QBs, where we say, everyone talks about the ceiling, but the floor is what makes them so valuable. Is that Anthony Richardson? If you run, it doesn't matter how you throw. If you run for 40 yards and a touchdown, that's 10 points, right? Like, then the rest is just gravy. So gotta love Anthony Richardson right now. It's hard not to. It's almost impossible to rank, just like Fields last year. It's almost impossible to rank more than 5 or 6 quarterbacks ahead of him. It's just, he's got to be somewhere in your top 10. So yeah, Richardson's locked in. Michael Pittman's playing every snap. Josh Downs is, to me, I'm hoping it flips at some point. He plays more snaps than Alec Pierce, but right now Alec Pierce is playing more. But Josh Downs has looked like the better player. And I'm also stashing Jelani Woods. So hanging on to a little Jelani wherever I can. He's not going to get activated this week. So if you've been stashing him in the IR, you don't have to take him out yet. So I've got Jelani stashed a little bit. It is kind of concerning that he's not ready to go, though, off the 4 weeks.
Yeah.
On the Titans side, yikes, right, John? It's like you start Derrick Henry and then that's it.
I'm kicking myself because I actually had Nick Westbrook-Akine in a lineup last week for DFS, and I made some pivots, and he ended up not making the final cut here, and he ended up scoring. I mean, listen, if no Treylon Burks again this week, I would. I mean, we're not talking DFS. I guess we're talking seasonal. You're not going to play Nick Westbrook-Akine in the seasonal, but I would give another DFS dart throw on Westbrook-Akine.
Yeah.
If we see the same thing happen, because again, the Colts defense not that great. Derrick Henry's a big green light. You play him for sure, but no, I'm not doing much else in this offense. Even like DeAndre Hopkins doesn't feel playable at this point. Well, so
Hopkins is clearly not hurt because he's clearly not healthy. It's the ankle, because this is actually the third game in a row now that Nick Westbrook, actually, honestly, it looks like third game in a row that Nick Westbrook-Akine has led this team in snaps.
Yeah.
So he's out there. Like, so for at
he's
least for DFS
too. He's just not good enough offense for me to like consider him weekly, but in DFS, I don't mind the dart in the right matchup. Colts side, I mean, what do you make of Jonathan Taylor getting the practice window open? Do we see him sooner rather than later here?
I'm hoping so. And the thing is, the owner, the front office is where the problems are. It sounds like from the conversations with the coach is that the coach is kind of taking the player side on this one, which is great for fantasy football, because he's like, yeah, I talked to him. He's excited to play. He's excited to get back with his teammates. His teammates are excited to have him back. So it sounds like if he wants to play, he's going to be opened with welcome arms down at field level. The problems are up in the box, and that's fine with me.
We are 4 Sundays away from the NFL trade deadline. So
if the problems are in the box, I don't care.
Here. Yeah, it could be showcasing a little bit.
As long as the coach isn't taking the GM and owner side and doing some weird stuff, which it doesn't sound like he is, then I'm not going to discount him because of contract issues.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else on this one?
No.
Okay.
You can drop Chig. Even if he's not going to do anything with Burks out, then he's not going to do anything right now. The offense is just not conducive to big plays, really.
Giants on the road in Miami. Miami is the 11-point favorite. It's a 40.5 game total here. I wrote up the QB coach in this one here. Mentioned we could see a case of the Miami flu this week hitting the Giants. You're a 1-3 team coming off the worst loss ever. You're going to go down to South Beach, and maybe you enjoy your Saturday night a little bit more, knowing you probably don't have a chance of beating Miami on Sunday.
The Miami flu glasses. Look out. There we go.
And never discount the Miami flu. It's a real thing.
You get nice weather. You go over to the Clevelander, especially as it gets colder and teams are, especially when it's the winter and you're losing by a ton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time to head over.
Yeah, Miami's a lot of people's survivor picks this week. I believe it. I believe that Miami is going to be a popular survivor play this week for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, like, this game, you need the Giants to be competitive for Tua to be worth it in DFS, John. I know you had Tua as a DFS fade last week. Is he kind of maybe not a fade, but he's not a pick?
In my top tier this week. He was a fade last week for me because I didn't like them going to Buffalo and facing that defense. That obviously worked out. This week, I think he goes back home, and I think Miami maybe feels a little embarrassed about what just happened to them in Buffalo, and they come out firing here. The one wild card is that Devin Achane keeps scoring touchdowns. So like
from everywhere.
So like if he catches the touchdown, great for Tua. But if he's going to run a 35-yard touchdown again because the man just keeps on keeping on the way he's running the football, then that's going to take away from this passing offense. But I think we see McDaniel. I mean, we just saw Drew Lock and Geno Smith have success throwing the football here against the Giants. I think we're going to see McDaniels get Tua going here this week, and you'll get that Miami passing attack back on track here.
Yeah, the guy, I mean, like the craziest part is he also had another long touchdown in that Broncos game that was called back on a meaningless hold. Like this guy is just, he doesn't miss. So, yeah, I mean, Waller, this on paper should be a good matchup for Waller. I'm not dropping him. And honestly, I do have a league where I already looked around and said, hey, you know, it's 14-team league. I'm just starting him. The Dolphins have been one of the worst teams versus tight end going back to last year. They were bottom 3 team. This year, they're once again letting tight ends get work done. So I'm still going to roll Waller out there in this matchup, but I really can't trust anybody else.
Yeah, I'm with you here. Nobody. Wow, can we please play Jalen Hyatt a little bit more? Just see.
They moved him up a little, but not enough. Yeah. They used a lot of Hyatt and Wandale last week.
Yeah,
and dude. Last year, Waller
DFS this week, he's like $3,400 or no, I think he's $3,000 on FanDuel, DraftKings rather. I got some Wanda Robinson in PPR this week.
Go back and watch the last point on Waller. Go back and watch the pick 6 from last week, and find where Waller is. He's standing in the corner of the end zone, wide open.
Of course, he is. I mean, to be fair, he had zero time, Daniel Jones, to read the field. I love that video about Neal blocking Waller out of the way, allowing for a pass rusher just to come up.
Blocking another one of his teammates. Yeah, this is how crazy it's been for Daniel Jones, is that he, on 20% of his pass plays, 20% of the times when they call a pass play, he doesn't have enough time for it to actually result in a pass attempt. So he's either getting sacked, which he's been sacked 22 times. He's throwing the ball away. He has to scramble. You know what I mean? But so on over 20%, it's not even 80. Over 20% of those plays, they call a pass play, and he doesn't even have time to even throw something that we would consider an attempt.
Yeah, that was the Mac Jones sack last week. The Dallas Cowboys had him under pressure in 50% of his dropbacks.
Crazy.
Michael Parsons had 10 hurries on a gimpy ankle. So, speaking of the Patriots, New Orleans, New England. New England traded for J.C. Jackson this morning. Wow. New England is a 1-point home favorite, over under 40 in this one. I am playing the Saints defense in DFS this week. I don't think New England is going to get anything going here. You can't run against New Orleans. That's been a big thing for years now. And we know the Patriots can't throw the football. So I don't know where New England's scoring in this game here. I'm going Saints in this one. And I saw some guy hit a wild no touchdown parlay, Coop. I don't know if you saw that get tweeted out. Yeah, he did pick 5 teams to not score a touchdown last week, or 4 teams to not score a touchdown. It came through. It would not shock me if New England doesn't score a touchdown this week.
That's crazy behavior, though.
Total wild card. It was like a $10 bet to win 1,000, and it came through. So
I saw another one, weird bet like that actually makes a lot of sense. But somebody was able to bet a huge parlay that every opening kickoff in every game would be a touchback, and I think it hit, which is just a ridiculous bets. Okay. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Money, right? Yeah.
If it works, it ain't stupid. So I'll tell you, with the interesting thing with the J.C. Jackson, Bill Belichick clearly refuses to tank. He's playing for keeps. But I will say, if you really do look at the whole J.C. Jackson saga, he was an undrafted free agent, so he cost the Patriots nothing. He became an All-Pro, and then they let him walk, and they got a 4th-round comp pick when he walked, and then they just got him back for a pick swap for
$1 million because the Chargers are eating all of the contract,
which is insanity, dude. So from a GM standpoint, there's a lot of checkers there. The thing is, it's Patriots at this point, I really just want them to try just lose and try and get Drake May or Caleb Williams or whatever you can do, because I don't know, Matt. It's hard to trust Mac Jones, man.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't even know how much of it is Mac Jones, or if it is it for. I mean, again, we know the offensive line is bad. He doesn't have offensive talent either. We're waiting for Tyquan Thornton to come off IR and maybe help spread that offense a little bit more. But I don't think he's the answer. Twitch glasses in chat. He wants to see the Twitch glasses. Brad McCoy here.
McCoy knows the deal.
Traded JT for D-Hop for Ayuk.
Traded JT and D-Hop for Ayuk. I was 1-3, so I think he wants to take the risk on him and start Purdy or Trevor Lawrence this week. So I don't know. I think you gave up a lot for Ayuk, but
Jonathan Taylor for Ayuk is basically the deal. Again, I don't think D-Hop is.
D-Hop's not really doing much yet. I guess that's fair. JT for Ayuk is a fair trade. And then I'm starting Trevor Lawrence still. I'm starting Trevor Lawrence even against the Bills. I'm just hoping that that game has some shootout potential. Purdy versus the Cowboys, that doesn't sound appealing to me.
I kind of like Purdy. I do. I think that
I like him as a player, but against the Cowboys,
I think the offensive line for San Francisco keeps him protected. I mean, Chris McCaffrey did run in for 3 touchdowns. So, I guess. Well, also, okay. I'll backtrack what I'm saying here. I think that Jacksonville plays from behind in this game against Buffalo. So Lawrence is going to be forced to throw more.
Right.
So,
it's like, if you, I guess maybe even look at your matchup because like Purdy's obviously the safe play.
Right.
And then Lawrence is the high risk, high reward play. But the Jaguars, I mean, it's been ugly at times for the Jaguars. And we did miss a trade in here. Kyron for Jacobs and Pacheco.
He traded Kyron for Jacobs and Pacheco for Breece Hall already.
So
he got Breece Hall and Jacobs for Kyron and Pacheco.
That's amazing. Both of those amazing trades.
Big win for you there, sir.
Chris Allen, the guy that gave you Breece, needs to take a long walk. He needs to go jump in a lake, dude.
Yeah, I would agree with you. All right, next game here, Baltimore-Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh getting 30.5 game total. Might have Pickett, might have Trubisky. Not really sure I love this Pittsburgh side of this game. Anyways, other side of the matchup here, Lamar Jackson is running the football again. He was supposed to be throwing in this spread offense, and yet he's running the football a lot. So thoughts on Andrews, Flowers, Lamar? Is anybody in Pittsburgh playable this week?
Yeah. No. I mean, because no Freiermuth. Like, I guess you could use George Pickens where you have to, but if it's Trubisky, I don't even know, dude.
Pickens is a wide receiver 3 or a flex. That's how he is. So
if you have to, right? And then on the Ravens side, you're starting to say Flowers. Gus Edwards got good usage, so he's definitely a flex consideration. If you have, if you have guys on bye week, then throw him in there, But
not a great spot, but
Mark Andrews, you start off.
What else you got? Yeah, and right. I mean, dude, that touchdown that Andrews had was ridiculous. Yeah. Jumped over like 3 defenders at the high point and got the touchdown.
And for those that are thinking the football hasn't been that good so far this year, you're kind of right. I saw a couple studies, one that said that we've had some of the lowest over-unders just coming in to games like that we've had in a long time. And another one said that we've had the most 20-plus point deficit wins that we've seen since, I think it was like 2007 or something, which is doesn't sound like that long ago, but that's a long time ago. So like there's a lot of blowouts so far, it'll normalize to a certain degree. But yeah, if you've been thinking the football has been weird this year, it has been weird, but it's also weird every year.
Yeah, there was some comments made by coaching that basically they blame the offseason. The lack of allowed practice,
and you can't even practice anymore.
They can't get these guys ready to play because they're not allowed to put on pads half the time. So you're catering to the players, and now we're getting some bad football.
It did seem like there were fewer off-season injuries, though. Knock on wood. I did feel that way.
Patrick here with a trade involving this game here. I got offered Khalil Herbert and Pickens for Lamar. Desperately need a running back. I lost Chubb. I have Richardson on my bench. So would you trade Lamar for Herbert and Pickens, knowing you have Richardson already?
Yeah. I mean, even though I don't
love the Herbert,
I would try and get something else. Yeah, try and get somebody else.
Can you upgrade over Pickens? I would keep Herbert, but if you can upgrade over Pickens, that's great. But Herbert for Lamar, I mean, again, it's hard to gauge really anything going up against a bad Denver defense, but Herbert was the guy last week. So if that offense has made any changes, then there's good there. But I'm not sure about Pickens there. But you definitely have an expendable Lamar. I'll say this all the time. If you're willing to trade Lamar to that guy, let the league know you're willing to trade Lamar Jackson and see what offers come to you. So
let the league know you're willing to trade either quarterback.
Always let the league know that you're willing to make a deal because you never know what offers are going to come your way.
Right. So, and even if you love Richardson, what you always do is pretend like Lamar is much more valuable, and then you can use that leverage. Be like, here's both guys. I got to trade one of these quarterbacks. I don't want to trade Lamar and just pump up the value on Lamar, and then kind of you use that leverage. Be like, oh well, I can't give you Lamar for that, but I'll give you Richardson, and then they'll be like, oh, why not? Like make them both available, even if Richardson is the guy you want to keep.
Agreed. Mainly Rob here wants to know CJ Stroud or Dobbs, since we already talked Stroud this week.
Oh, mainly Rob in the Twitch gang, baby. Twitch gang coming in hot,
man. Love it. Love the Twitch gang.
I'm starting to see, I'm not as high as everyone else on CJ Stroud this week. I love CJ Stroud as much, if not more than everyone else in general, but I think people are underestimating the Falcons defense. They see that Falcons logo and they think bad, but they're not bad anymore. They're good now. So I am still starting Stroud over Dobbs, but it is closer. I don't know, John. What do you think? You're the QB guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Stroud this week
It's still
again.
Stroud.
I think I want to see how Atlanta, and we'll see. But the Atlanta coming back from lag here. Michael Gamer saying just to let everybody know that the EAS alarm will go off on your cell phone.
Oh yeah, good call. I gotta shut that off so if you're hanging with us for Fantasy Alarm,
Yeah.
the Fantasy Alarm show after this from 2 to 3, make sure you have your phone shut off.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they're gonna have the universal alarm ringing at 2:20 there. So
good call, Michael.
Thanks for the heads up for those of you, especially when we're going to be live on air. It's going to be a little shocking.
Yeah.
Everybody here. Cincy, Arizona. So talking about Arizona here, Arizona's getting 3. They were getting 5. Money is pouring in on Arizona in this matchup. They've already beat Dallas at home. It's Dobbs fever, but also Joe Burrow just looking like crap, man. I mean, Arizona may actually win this one here. Taking the 3 points for me.
Right, and you can't. It's great. You can't bench Burrow. They should have rested Burrow earlier, and now that you're 1-3, you can't. And if I hate to say it, but if this whole thing, Burrow playing through this injury, culminates with the worst outcome for a calf injury, which is Achilles or an issue like that, that would just be tragic. So
I would agree.
I hope that Burrow is slowly getting healthy and that the doctors are really taking it and making sure, like, hey, this isn't just a guy that's saying I'm playing no matter what, that they've actually cleared him and that the risk is minimal. But
if they lose this week to go to 1-4, you have to think the team really starts looking long-term outlook here. And you could maybe see Burrow rested, sat, something here because
T. Higgins trade block right away, right?
Yeah. Well, what's your seasonal outlook now as a 1-4 Bengals team with teams ahead of you in your own division and then the conference itself? Wouldn't really make much sense. And if you do suck, maybe you replace T. Higgins with Marvin Harrison Jr. or something like that, right? Or some offensive line play.
Howard Bender said it best on our show yesterday when he said this defense let both their starting safeties walk, and everyone's wondering why the defense is bad. Like they literally, those two players, Von Bell and Jesse Bates, played 97 and 98% of the snaps last season. 1 and 2 on that defense. The two defensive players that played the most, gone. And Jesse Bates has been unbelievable.
They assumed their offense would be able to keep pace. They didn't really anticipate their quarterback going down. Arizona side, I like Connor. Marquise Brown's been really good, and Ertz is still getting a bunch of targets, man. So I think it's an all systems go here for the Arizona offense this week, believe it or not.
No substitute for 10 targets, baby.
No substitute.
Marquise Brown's playing a lot of snaps, and honestly, for DFS purposes, like if they're going to give Rondale Moore carries here or there, this could be a situation like the 2020 Panthers where you have 2 real wide receivers and one wide receiver that gets one Curtis Samuel, and they were all top 24 wide receivers. I mean, these guys probably won't be, but from a week to week standpoint, anybody can pop.
I agree. Philly versus the Rams here. Rams are getting 4 at home again. I feel like this is going to be I don't think LA is going to find the success they've had in the recent weeks here. I like the Eagles defense. Pass rush is ridiculous. We know that their corners are good. They're still weak up the middle. We loved Logan Thomas last week. He came through with the targets and catches again for Washington. Tyler Higbee, is a focal point of this passing offense. And the Eagles offense with Swift and the passing offense, A.J. Brown's been going off here. So I don't know. To me, this feels like a game here where Philly is going to probably dominate more than the experts or Vegas is at least predicting.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, the 4 is crazy. How much, John, if Matthew Stafford were out for this game, what would that line go to? Plus 20? Like, he has just got this team on his back. He's making amazing throws, man. Like, he is fully ready to rock. Like, if Cooper Kupp comes back, this team, now we got to take them very seriously.
You know what's hilarious is that, again, I'm obviously a card collector. You love opening packs, baseball, basketball, football cards, you name it. Puka Nacua isn't even in some of the sets of cards that were being released because nobody expected him to be anything. So like the latest NFL Mosaic packs from Panini came out, Puka Nacua doesn't have any cards in the set. So like,
they sold out of his jerseys too, John.
Yeah, it's wild. Just kind of where he came from as an unknown player or a dynasty known player, what is he, a 5th round pick? Right. To the fact that, Panini wouldn't even consider him as a print player for their cards. Wow, and now he's leading the league in catches,
Right. And so last thoughts on Eagles, you start everybody you got there with Dallas Goedert. Even if you're starting someone else, don't drop him, because one of the main appeals of Dallas Goedert the whole time was been that he's like a double handcuff. if AJ Brown or Devonta Smith go down, they're not going to take Quez Watkins or Alameda Zacchaeus and make them stars. Like it is Dallas Goedert if that happens. So you really can't drop him. He's, you just got to start him where we're in certain spots and stash the highest upside, highest risk player on your bench.
Okay, let me get your take here quickly, because this is a name that, again, it's fantasy Twitter, it's the hot take, it's the big name. Schefter just tweeted that the Ravens have activated and added Keaton Mitchell to their roster. He is a guy that I've seen a lot of people consider to be a deep dart waiver wire claim, that the Ravens offense doesn't really have a separator at the running back position, and that Mitchell's a guy that the team loved during training camp, kept him, put him on IR with the expectation that he could be a contributor this year. If he's on the waiver wire, would he be somebody that you just take a speculative add-on right now?
You have to, because like, think about James Robinson. The offseason smoke was there, then he got the gig. Jaleel McLaughlin, like this isn't just depth chart searching. Like sometimes people just look at the depth chart and say, who's next? They say, who's next on the depth chart? That I don't like those guys. If these guys have smoke in the offseason, like Mitchell did, like Jaleel McLaughlin did, now I'm interested. And everybody in the chat that has trade questions, stay here on this channel, because we're doing a full essential trade question show next with me and Howard Bender. We're just going to rapid fire these last couple of games because we got to jump in like a minute or two, right, John?
Yeah, we got a couple minutes left in the show. But again, Alarm Fantasy Football following us here. You don't have to leave the channel. Bender and Coop will be on with you for that.
And that's all trades today.
Jets, Denver. Zach Wilson actually had a pretty good game against Kansas City. Now going up against a Denver defense that is among the worst in the league. We got Robert Saleh saying there's no more snaps count cap for Breece Hall as well. Thoughts here on the Jets offense going into Denver this week?
Yeah, Breece Hall is looking awesome, man. So you gotta be happy about him. Garrett Wilson, you start him where you got to. I'm not starting any other pass catchers from this team. Zach Wilson has some zip, and this is gonna be an interesting game because Sean Payton did a little bit of trash talk about Nathaniel Hackett and the Jets and this whole gang. So you know what? Going to be an interesting one for sure. But next one, Chiefs, Vikings. John.
Yeah, well, it's the biggest game on the board. 53
biggest game on the board.
4.5. Everybody's in play, right?
Yeah, got to get them in there. I mean, even if Vikings have been ugly, like Kirk Cousins is the exact kind of guy that can come out and have an ugly game like he did last week and then bounce back and have a great game. We've seen it a million times. It's exactly who this guy is. So we're hoping we get good Cousins and we get a good football game here. Though we could get bad Cousins and get a terrible football game. But I'm hoping for the good one with a over-under 53. Vegas is expecting the good one.
Yeah, I'll agree with you 100% there. And then Dallas, San Francisco is your Sunday night football game here.
That is one where I'd be willing to bet the under. Two very good defenses and the Cowboys offense I'm not so sure on. The 49ers offense is just rock solid. They have, Trent Williams and Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle and all these, and Christian McCaffrey and all these names, and it's rock solid. Dak Prescott's the one where I'm not sure I'm sold on his decision making. I don't know if he can truly get the ball to guys like Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup. Clearly he can get it to CeeDee Lamb, and he loves dumping down to Jake Ferguson. But this is a huge test for Dak Prescott. Can he come out, read the defense, go through his progressions, and actually get the ball to the guys that are running high A-dot routes, the chunk play players? Because it's easy to beat up on the Patriots when they lose Matt Judon and Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez now up for the year, is from what I'm hearing. Like, it's easy to beat up on teams like that. Now you got to go against the team that, if you want to win the whole thing, you're going to see him in the playoffs at some point. So this is a monster game for Dak Prescott, especially.
Yep. Ann wants to know any news on Javonte. Not yet. The hip pointer, apparently we weren't sure he was going to miss any games, but got to watch the practice reports this weekend. We'll get a better take on the news for Javonte there in that spot. Final game, Green Bay, Las Vegas. We have the potential return matchup between Davante Adams and the Packers. We'll see how Adams' shoulder is dealing with. Jimmy G still in concussion protocol. I love Josh Jacobs this week, though. We just saw David Montgomery run all over Green Bay. You can run on Green Bay here, and I think that we're going to see Jacobs once again get a pretty heavy dose of work in this one.
Yeah, we talk about revenge games, but at this point, Davante Adams probably likes the Packers better than he likes the Raiders, right?
He might like him better if Jimmy G was the quarterback, but Aiden O'Connell was not his friend.
No, dude. It's and he was worried about, part of his comments when he left said, "Hey, I'm worried about my legacy. I know I've talked to Rodgers. I know how long he wants to play. I want to be like an all-time great." Kind of honestly, he even said no shade at Jordan Love. Basically, he's like, you can see the comments. There's no shade at Jordan Love, but I want to go play with Derek Carr. Well, as of right now, I'm not even sure Derek Carr's better than Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love's looked at least solid, right?
Yeah.
Like he's looked promising. So you got to, with the Packers, you're starting Aaron Jones. You're trying not to start AJ Dillon where you can avoid it. You're starting Christian. You're hoping Christian Watson gets ramped up. He only played half the game last week, so you can't really take that game as what you're going to get. I think we see more Christian Watson here. Romeo Doubs, you can start. Jaden Reed, I'm avoiding. I think Luke Musgrave is going to play. So he's definitely going to be in my DFS article in this matchup if he's a full go. The fact that he had the concussion on Thursday gave him extra time to get back. And I think he's already at practice. So not fully cleared, but feeling good. On the Raiders side, you know what you got. It's Devontae Adams. It's Jacoby Myers. It's Josh Jacobs. And that's it.
Yep. Guys, I just put the link in the chat for Alarm Fantasy Football. That's coming up right now after this show here with Coop and Bender. Make sure you check that out. Stay with the channel. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Trade questions will be answered on the Alarm Fantasy Football Show. Go get them over there. For Coop and I, we will be back next week, everybody. Good luck here, and we'll catch you later.